A very warm welcome. We begin tonight in Rivers State. A coalition of 70 civil society organizations urged the National Assembly to summon the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibokete Bass, retired, to give an account of his stewardship in Rivers State for the past 6 months. The groups under the auspices of the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room said the call had become necessary considering that the mandate handed to Bass after the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara by President Tinubu would expire on Thursday. More so, the Situation Room, in a statement it issued to commemorate the 2025 International Day of Democracy, said it was worried that the nation is still grappling with systemic corruption. Now, the countdown is on in Rivers State as the 6-month emergency rule winds down. Events marking the transition began on Sunday with a Thanksgiving service in Port Harcourt. At the service, the sole administrator, retired Vice Admiral Ibokete Bass, reflected on the situation he inherited, a state divided, unstable, and weighed down by broken trust. Meanwhile, residents of the state expressed mixed opinions on how the past 6 months have impacted the state's economy and their livelihoods. All right, a very short break. We'll be right back with the State of the Nation. The state of the nation ahead of the 2027 general elections, according to analysts, is precarious, marked by rising insecurity, economic instability, and intense party politics. While insecurity remains a significant challenge, with Boko Haram attacks and kidnappings destabilizing certain regions, the ruling APC and PDP are preparing for a fierce battle, with the opposition forming alliances to challenge the ruling party. The 2027 outcome will depend on party alliances, economic condition, and public perception of the government's performance. Now, the electorate demands effective governance, security, economic stability, and an end to corruption. And now these demands and how these demands are met will shape Nigeria's future. Former lawmaker representing Kaduna Central, Senator Shehu Sani, is our guest tonight. He joins us to discuss the myriad of issues bordering on the state of the nation, which includes security, economy, among other issues. Thank you very much, Senator, for being here tonight. There is so much going on in the polity right now. Let's start with politics and, of course, 2027, because it's in every conversation today. But can you say for sure a major upset is in the works?
Well, thank you for having me in your program. Well, as far as I'm concerned, speaking as a politician from the northwestern part of the country, or the northern part of Nigeria, I have not seen any serious organization, mobilization on the side of the opposition in terms of their determination to evict the ruling party out of power. I know they are relying on the suffering of the people, the security issues in the north, and also the sentiment in northern part of Nigeria, and the feeling that the Tinubu administration is marginalizing the north and favoring the southwestern part of Nigeria. But if you look at it very well, at the end, what will determine the votes of the people is historically strange. That is, who takes the ticket of the opposition, and then they will compare it to the person in with the flag bearer of the ruling party. And then from there, people will gravitate towards where their sentiment is. We shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that because of there is insecurity, so people will not vote for the ruling party. Because there is hunger, people will not vote for ruling party. Because there is one sentiment or that. It is not how politics works. If you look at it, Buhari was the president of Nigeria for 8 years, and he was not able to address the problems of insecurity and poverty, destitution and underdevelopment in northern Nigeria. But people were still aligned to the party which Buhari belonged, and they voted him into office. So any person, as an opposition, you have to do your homework well. It's not about organizing meetings, conferences, and issuing statements in Abuja. If you are a serious opposition, like it was done in 2014, you have to go back to your ward, go back to your local government, go back to your state, and then appeal to the electorates and study your own political terrain, and then see how you can use that strategy to take over power. But most of the activities of the opposition is in Abuja, and it's in the media, and it's in social media. And if I'm going to speak like an activist, a civil rights activist, I can say they are making the right noises and they are somehow dominating the airwaves. But if I'm going to speak as a politician, I will have to look at how strong they are on the ground and how impactful they are on the ground and how are they being received by people on the ground. So this is my own first phase of contribution to your question.
Okay, not sure your affiliation with the recent coalition, or perhaps you could clear that up for us. I know there is some speculation, but based on what you've said, what are the likely scenarios in 2027 with not just the coalition, but the states at which we are seeing the Labour Party, the PDP, and other parties? What likely scenarios will play out in 2027, putting in context the fears that has been dismissed repeatedly by politicians of the possibility of a one-party state with opposition so weakened they become almost inconsequential?
Well, let me tell you how this thing is. When you talk of possibility, you are also talking of conjecture. If the opposition failed someone like His Excellency Atiku Abubakar as the flag bearer, there is the tendency of the southern part of Nigeria coming together and see that that is an attempt to deny the South the opportunity to take over, to rule for 8 years. And that may not be good for the opposition. And if the opposition feels Peter Obi as the presidential candidate of the party, the North will now have to gauge between a Peter Obi from the southwestern part of Nigeria and a Bola Tinubu from the southeastern part of Nigeria and a Bola Tinubu from southwestern part of Nigeria. And I don't think there will not be much trouble in terms of people voting for the ruling party. And if it is it is for the opposition to look at where do they have to cast their own die. An Atiku presidential nomination will create issues of rotation of power. Now the North trying to take over power. And Peter Obi, as a presidential candidate, there will be sentiment in the North, there will be a lot of propaganda, and at the end of the day, there is likelihood of the ruling party taking over. So, but how the two candidates will work together is something that can also give a different result. Know it very well that if the coalition are going to present a candidate of the primary elections, and if they're going to the primary election, I don't see the possibility of Atiku being defeated, because people who are going to vote in the primary elections are delegates from all the 36 states, including Abuja.
All right.
And I don't I don't know how that any person can defeat Atiku in that aspect of that kind of game. So the question for the opposition is who will take over, who will lead them to the battle against us. As far as I'm concerned, and from what I've seen on the ground, is that there is the condition that is created for the opposition to capitalize on. They can capitalize on insecurity, they can capitalize on hunger, they can capitalize on poverty in the country and so many things. But before you achieve that, you have to be united. In 2014, there was a consensus among the opposition to rally around Buhari. And Buhari had an organic following in northern part of Nigeria. And as such, it wasn't difficult for them to rally around him. He doesn't
so what you're saying in essence is, what you're saying in essence, sir, is that despite the challenges, there's a possibility that they can come up strong in 2027 to be a strong opposition to actually make a dent in our democracy. I want to go back quickly to the question I asked about. I don't think you quite answered it on your affiliation with the current coalition. Will you be an active participant, or you would be more of an advisory role as to how they go?
I don't belong to the coalition. I belong to the APC in Kaduna State, and I am of the APC. And more members of the coalition, I believe, were a combination of people from the PDP and the APC. So I am of the APC. My own comment and my own contribution is predicated on what I can see on the ground, that there is no way an opposition can confront a ruling party without having a strong coalition.
All right.
But the enemies of the coalition will be themselves and not the ruling party. And how they are able to address their differences is something. If you look at the social media now, if you see Atiku being attacked, it's almost from supporters of the other.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, Senator.
You see Peter Obi is still from the, yes, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're time pressed, and you've actually made the point clear that you have no affiliations with them. Let's talk insecurity now. Only today, scores of worshippers were brazenly kidnapped in Zamfara state, and the situation is just virtually out of hand in Katsina and other parts of the north. Why has terrorism been, looks like it's been so elusive to handle? 1 minute it seems like we're moving forward, and then it's like we're moving backwards. What are we missing?
It still baffles me how a nation like ours cannot still address the security challenges that confront us for the last 1.5 decades. This is a country that has fought in the First World War, and we came out triumphantly. This is a country that has fought in Second World War. This is a country that was in Congo in the 60s. This is a country that was in Somalia in the 80s. This is a country that has contributed in the struggle against apartheid. This is a country that has restored law and order in Sierra Leone and Liberia. But when it comes to the issue of our country, tackling bandits and terrorists that are not more than 5,000 for a nation of 230 million people, I still find it baffling and worrying as far as I'm concerned. And you look at it, in the last 10 years, trillions of naira has been spent on defense and security. But you hear our men in the front line complaining of lack of welfare, lack of equipment, lack of weapons, lack of ammunition, and the police complaining of outdated equipment. So I don't really understand this problem, because a lot of questions need to be asked. And that is it. But as far as the insecurity is concerned, kidnapping is still going on, attacks are still going on, but we can comparatively say that things are better now than they used to be. For example, in the past, you hear of kidnapping in Federal School of Agri-Mechanization, Kaduna, Greenfield University, Kaduna, Government Secondary School, Kankara, Government Secondary School, Jengibi, Government Science College, Kagara, Dapchi, Chibok, all those things here. There is no week or month in the past without terrorists or bandits attacking school and kidnapping school children.
Some would argue with you that it just seems to be evolving rather than actually abating. It's just evolving into a bit more complex scenario. We can't seem to find who are the kidnappers.
Everything you see that is happening now has happened in the past. Whether it is attack on churches, attack on mosques, kidnapping of worshippers, attack on commuters, everything that is happening now had happened in the past. We live in an internet age. If you Google
it's happening in the past, but we keep failing to find a solution, it seems. But I mean, we have so many questions.
We are failing. I agree with you. As a country, we should do better. But what I'm saying is that I am still wondering also how a nation like ours, with all our resources and all our manpower and all our population, we can still not be able to tackle and address these problems once and for all. But you can see that the issue of terrorism is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. It's also in Chad, it's in Cameroon, it's in northern Cameroon, it's in Burkina Faso, it's in Mali, it's in Niger. So it's a regional thing.
Yeah, it seems like a challenge that we're still barely getting the hang of, unfortunately. I want you to jump quickly, before we talk about inflation, I want you to talk about the current situation in the oil sector, from allegations of monopoly to unionism concerns to the announcement of CNG trucks. For about 4,000 was launched today, and the conversation is, shouldn't we be moving forward in this sector? What would be your assessment of the situation and how we can find a middle ground so that that sector doesn't implode in any way?
You see, with the signing into law of the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill, which became an act, it's supposed to be a solution to our problems in the energy sector, with the reforms that introduce decentralization and also that introduce a series of deregulation and give independence to different segments of the oil sector. It appears that we are out of one problem and we are into another. If I'm going to talk specifically on what's happening between Dangote and the tanker drivers, you see, here you have a businessman who wants to make profit and who doesn't want strikes, who doesn't want unionism, and who simply set up a company and want an uninterrupted supply chain. But here you have a tradition of unionism in Nigeria, where tanker drivers, oil workers need to be protected by union, need to be protected by slavery and enslavement and all sorts of exploitation by their employer. So if you want to have workers that are not unionized, you have to be questioned by the union. It is as simple as that. Okay. So in that aspect, I believe that a mediation between the two should be able to generate a resolution to that problem. But as far as the other aspect of energy is concerned, I think corruption is deeply entrenched in our energy sector. I still cannot understand why a nation like this cannot protect its own resources, cannot also make use of the resources for the goods of its people. And we are an oil-producing country, but when you go to countries like Qatar, like Kuwait, like Saudi Arabia, you start wondering, what kind of oil do we have? What kind of business do we have?
Quite unfortunate.
We are not making profit with what we are doing. They have functional refineries we don't have. They have functional supply lines we don't have. They don't have oil theft, we have oil theft. So all the things negative about oil at the source cause is here.
It's quite unfortunate. And this conversation is really long. But let's get your quick thoughts in 40 seconds, because we have to conclude this interview. Nigeria's inflation has dropped, 5th consecutive time, but the prices of food, school fees, and living standard is still up. How do you reconcile this please, in 40 seconds or 1 minute?
Yeah, inflation has dropped, and in fact, it is not true that some food prices, there's actually some food prices that have dropped. For example, potatoes that comes from the central parts of Nigeria is down. The price of rice is down. But what of public earning? What's the value of our currency? And how much can 70,000 naira minimum wage purchase? And there are still food crops that are virtually unaffordable and inaccessible for the common people. So we must address the problem of this hunger and inflation in order to curtail the kind of crisis. What happened in Nepal is a strong message to each and every person in the position of power to be very careful. If not, if people rise up, it's going to be terrible for those who hold the reign of leadership in a country. Hunger, insecurity, and poverty are dangerous symptoms that need to be addressed for safety, for security, and for peace of a nation.
I hope it does get addressed. Senator, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
The legal tussle within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, again played out at the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday as disagreements among councils stalled proceedings. The case, which touches on the leadership of the party, saw lawyers trade arguments over whether court processes were properly served on all defendants. At the hearing, Michael Agbe, representing the plaintiff, and senior advocate of Nigeria, Shaibu Arua, appeared for the ADC as first defendant. The Independent National Electoral Commission was represented by Kingsley Magbuin, while 3 other defendants were absent. Justice Emeka Awite, after listening to both sides, ordered that the matter be adjourned. He fixed September the 30th for the hearing of all pending applications, allowing parties time to reconcile service and file their responses. To security matters now, armed bandits on Monday abducted about 40 Muslim worshippers during early morning prayers at Gaidam Tube Village Mosque in Safa, local government area of Zamfara State. According to community sources, the assailants struck around 5:30 a.m., surrounding the mosque before whisking away the worshippers at gunpoint. The captives were later taken into forest around the Gohori axis of Safa. The incident has thrown the community into panic, highlighting the fragility of ongoing peace initiatives in the Northwest, where dialogue efforts with armed groups continue to face setbacks. Meanwhile, the Plateau State Emergency Management Agency on Monday visited and sympathized with victims of attacks in the 11 communities of Kwanpan local government area of the state. The summer delegation, led by the Executive Secretary, Sunday Abdu, also donated an additional assortment of food and non-food items to the internally displaced persons taking refuge in IDP camps. The attacks resulted in a loss of lives, destruction of properties, and displacement of many of the inhabitants from their ancestral homes. Abdu condemned the attacks in the strongest terms, describing them as heinous and calamitous, and prayed for lasting peace in Kwanpan. Schools are back in session across the country as nursery, primary and secondary students return for the 2025-2026 academic year. While the students are excited to reunite with friends and teachers after the long third-term break, many parents say the joy is dampened by the soaring cost of school fees and essential supplies. News Center's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
It is the first day of the 2025-2026 academic session at this learning facility. Here, the mood of students and teachers is of pure joy and excitement. After a break of academic activities, many of the students are elated to reunite with their friends and continue with their studies.
I'm actually excited because I've been looking forward to the coming term because I set a lot of goals for myself, which I've been looking forward to achieving them. So I'm actually excited to be back in school.
I'm somewhat excited to be back in school. The holiday was nice, but after a while it became a little boring, and school rejuvenates the energy. that was gone during the holiday.
Parents, however, have mixed feelings about the resumption as they lament high cost of school fees and other school items, including uniforms and stationaries.
Coming back to school, resuming school, it's another payment. It's another payment because I know the amount of money I paid this period. But, man, it is what it is. We can't take it away from them. We have to give them education.
They will have to increase their fees because they have to meet their increasing costs, right? And it's not palatable because it tells on us, the final consumers. However, they have a business to run whilst trying to educate the people.
For school owners, they blame the fee hike on the high cost of running schools, which has worsened due to the country's economic situation.
When you look at the cost of running the school, you see that if you are in the shoe of the proprietor or the administrator, you will really pity them, because cost of running the school in terms of overhead costs, in terms of other expenses, you see that it's not an easy thing.
Booksellers say business has been slow compared to previous years.
Parents have been complaining. High price of book, school fees, this and that and this. So all those factors contributed, why there has not been rushing like before. And combined with this, our new Nigerian economy.
As schools resume, parents hope they meet all of their children's educational needs, while students and teachers look forward to an exciting school term. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Still ahead tonight, Malawians express concerns ahead of country's general elections. We'll tell you more in a moment. The Nigerian Medical Association has once again raised concerns about the state of Nigeria's healthcare system, calling for increased budgetary allocations and improved welfare for medical professionals. My colleague Israel Eferobo tells us more.
Press conference in Lagos. The Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State Chapter addressed what it described as the persistent underfunding of the health sector.
Nigeria 2025 health budget stand at 2.48 trillion by the federal government, representing very low 5.18% of the total government expenditure. The World Health Organization, having seen this, are urging Nigeria to raise public health spending at least 20% of total health expenditure.
The theme of this year's briefing, a critical appraisal of Nigeria's budgetary allocations to health, negotiating for better salary scale and relativity for medical doctors, also spotlighted the welfare of doctors.
Negotiation for better medical salary scale and maintenance of relativity among healthcare professionals has become one of the key challenges being faced by the medical profession in Nigeria due to what? Insincerity, unwillingness of and lack of integrity by all levels of government when they are dealing with union.
The association also reacted to the suspension of the warning strike by the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, urging government to fully implement the agreements reached.
Government have started paying, but not fully. The last, when they promised to pay the MRC, that's how many months ago, loot were not paid. But enemy came in, a part of the demand of enemy, that this MRC should be paid. And they promised by August 30th they're going to pay. They didn't pay. The only thing government understand is strike. Until the day on Friday went on strike, they not start paying. It showed level of insincerity.
The NMA says until Nigeria matches its commitment with action, healthcare delivery will remain fragile and doctors will continue to seek greener pastures abroad. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Eferobo.
Thank you for being here. Outside Nigeria, some citizens across Malawi are voicing growing concerns about the integrity of the electoral process, with many expressing a lack of trust in the Malawi Electoral Commission. To provide more insight, News Centre's Bongani Siziba spoke to election observers to get their perspective and sent in this report.
Just hours before the voting day, Malawians are still concerned about the readiness of Malawi Electoral Commission. There are still concerns that they think they haven't been resolved. But let me just bring in one of the electoral observers, Tendai Mbanje, just to speak to us about what they have observed so far. Thank you for joining us. Just take us through what you have observed this far.
Today, heads of international election observation missions of the African Union, SADC, the African Center for Governance, and SADC ECF, as well as representation from UN and EU missions, they met just to share notes on their findings. The election environment is generally calm. No incidents, major incidents of violence or concern have been noted, except that the issues that have been brewing in the election period remain an issue of concern.
What are those issues?
First, there has been issue around the trust of the Commission, the technology that they've been using. Some of the issues they have been resolved, communication have been communicated to stakeholders, but I do not think that it is simmered enough to citizens. That's one area. Then another issue that has been of concern is violence. The police, in the pre-election campaign, they were not able to address violence. They were not able to arrest and investigate. To date, a few arrests were made and no investigations were made, and those who were arrested were released. So there is a concern that in the event of a disputed outcome and the violence erupts, there is uncertainty whether the police will be able to contain that, given what they've demonstrated in the past. And also another concern is the tension that is there, whether it provides some uncertainty whether the announcement of election results would be peaceful or whether there will be acceptance of the outcome of the election.
We have heard from the election observers some of the observations as they were going out in the streets speaking to citizens. There are concerns about the Malawi Electoral Commission. However, voting continues tomorrow starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 4 p.m. The Malawi Electoral Commission says they might extend this, especially for those that will be in the queues at 4 p.m. So from me, Bongani Siziba in Lilongwe, Malawi, speak to you in the studio.
Foreign dignitaries from across the Arab and Muslim world have gathered in Doha for an emergency summit aimed at delivering a decisive response to Israel after its recent attack on Qatar. This emergency meeting of the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation opened on Monday following a closed-door session of foreign ministers who drafted a resolution proposing concrete measures against Israel. The Israeli airstrikes on Qatar last week killed 5 Hamas members and a Qatari security officer, while narrowly missing a Hamas negotiation team preparing to discuss a U.S. proposal to end the 2-year war in Gaza.
Nigeria's headline inflation eased for the 5th consecutive month in August 2025, offering consumers slight relief from high living costs. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics showed inflation slowed to 20.12% from 21.88% in July, a 1.76 percentage point decline, and well below the 32.15% recorded in August 2024. Food inflation, the main driver, moderated to 21.87% from 37.52% a year earlier, though still elevated. Urban inflation fell to 19.75%, while rural stood at 20.28%. The slowdown comes ahead of the central bank's policy meeting this month, where officials will weigh interest rate adjustments. Nigeria's power generation companies have warned that mounting debts, unstable transmission and poor grid management are crippling their plants. Association of Power Generation Companies CEO Joy Ogaji criticized threats by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to disconnect non-compliant GENCOs from the grid, saying the industry's foundation is being undermined. She noted that frequent disturbances are damaging thermal and hydro units, tripling maintenance costs and pushing plants far below capacity. The GENCOs demanded immediate payment of outstanding revenues and urgent reforms, warning that without stability, the national grid faces recurring collapse and operators risk greater financial and technical strain. And the NGX kicked off the week in the green. We're taking a look at what has happened today. We're seeing the all-share index is now at 141,659 points. We're up 79 basis points today. And yes, we are nearing the 90 trillion mark. We're at 89.62 trillion when it comes to market capitalization. Taking a look at sectoral performances, a mixed performance. In the green, we have banking up marginally. We also have consumer goods up significantly, driven by Boa Foods. Boa gained about 40 naira today. Boa Foods, amongst others, also drove consumer goods. Industrial goods flat. We have oil and gas down 0.09% and insurance as well down 0.23%. But a strong performance on the NGX today, nevertheless. That's business tonight. Up next, Favor brings you sports.
And in sports, world record holder Tobi Amusan has won Nigeria's first medal at the ongoing Tokyo 2020 World Athletics Championships, clinching silver in the women's 100-meter hurdles. Amusan clocked 12.28 seconds to finish second behind Switzerland's Ditaji Kambunji, who stormed to gold in a new national record of 12.24 seconds. The Nigerian star described her achievement as a product of perseverance, faith, and unwavering support she enjoys. Reflecting on the race, Amusan acknowledged the fierce competition, noting it featured one of the strongest hurdles fields in recent championship history. Attention now shifts to Nigeria's Ezekiel Nathaniel, who powered to victory in his 400-meter hurdles heat with 48.37 seconds, advancing to the semi-finals and keeping alive hopes of another podium finish for Team Nigeria.
It's all good. I remember in 21, I came here and I came fourth. The moment I heard World Championship is going to be kept here, I had a PTSD. But then I had to snap out of it, and I told myself I'm not leaving here without the gold medal. I don't know, but I'll take a silver, but yeah. I mean, it's been good. The journey has been extremely rough. I've taken more L's than wins, and I'm just thankful that I have a great support system, my coach, my family, my mentors, my loved ones, my fans, oh bro, not so much. And I'm just out here, going to training.
And now to football. The Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, has confirmed that the Flying Eagles of Nigeria will play 2 high-profile international friendlies against Chile and Australia as part of preparations for this year's FIFA Under-20 World Cup finals. According to the NFF's head of international competitions, Dayo Enebi, the 7-time African champions will take on host Chile on Saturday, September 20th. 3 days later, the Flying Eagles will face Asian qualifiers, Australia. 2-time silver medalists in 1988, 1989 and 2005, Nigeria reached the quarterfinals of the last Under-20 World Cup in Argentina before being eliminated after extra time 1-0 loss to South Korea. Still talking football, Nigeria's Under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, are also boosting their preparations for next month's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in Morocco with 2 straight friendly wins at the FIFA Goal Project Abuja. Now, on Friday, September 12th, the Flamingos defeated Hovel Angels 2-0 thanks to goals in each half from Chisom Nwachukwu and Koseira Olarewaju. A day later, the girls turned on the style against Nazareth Angels, routing out 5-0 winners. The clean sheet and goal scoring will please coach Bankole Olowokere as they gear up for their Group D battles with Canada, France, and Samoa from October 17th to the 8th of November. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. Up next is entertainment with Sam Dandy.
It's that time to bring you some dandy with all the dandy news. Hi.
We got exciting news and entertainment.
Oh, yes. Yes, Hilda Bassi.
Absolutely. In fact, we were there live. Chef Hilda Bassi has done it again, and this time it's official. The Guinness World Record has confirmed her as the holder of the world's largest serving of jollof rice. We're talking about a massive pot cooked with 250 bags of rice, enough to feed a whole city. Hilda, who first broke the internet with her record-breaking cookathon back in 2023, keeps raising the bar for what Nigerian talent can do globally. From viral kitchen moments to putting jollof rice on the world stage, she's turned cooking into full-blown pop culture. Everyone talked about this. We saw videos. People tasted the jollof rice. It's incredible what she's able to do, and honestly, the technology behind it too, because that is some big pots.
True. It's hard work. Hard work does pay. I'm super proud of what she's been able to accomplish through world records. Congratulations, Hilda.
Absolutely. Let's move from that one. Mr. Easy is making big moves outside the booth. His company, Empower Africa, has just announced plans to start acquiring African music catalogs. As interesting as this sounds, it is a major step towards reshaping the business side of Afrobeats. Instead of just making hits, Mr. Easy is building ownership and creating opportunities for African artists to cash out long-term from their hard work. Now, this move is huge for the culture because it means more African sounds will be preserved, monetized, and controlled by Africans themselves. Now, there is no doubt that Mr. Easy is a visionary.
I agree. The guy is just doing his things silently. First, he picked one of the bestest ladies. I don't know if that's the correct language. Got himself hitched nicely to and then he's doing well silently. I mean, some of the things that was revealed at their wedding, a lot of persons didn't know. Yeah, so he's doing really good.
I was surprised a lot of Nigerians, of course, celebrated the wedding, but they talked about, oh, he's just a musician. He does more than that.
It's not just a musician.
He did say that.
Neither is any musician really just a musician. Some of them have a mix of talent. Business, entrepreneurs, friends, you know, and you have Hilda Bassi. She's an entrepreneur as well as a chef.
You know what? I guess this is inspiring to all of us because we can do it all. Who says you can act, sing, and maybe dance?
Yeah. Well, when is your album coming out?
Oh, that'll be good. You know, people assume that I'm an Afrobeat star because of the dreads.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put out music.
Please do. I'll listen.
Well, those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's what we have for you tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Civil Society Coalition has urged the National Assembly to summon Rivers Sole Administrator to give account of his 6-month tenure. The court has delayed suit on ADC leadership tussle over improper service of papers on defendants. We also told you that Qatar has vowed to confront Israeli aggression on Doha as Arab leaders meet to seek decisive actions against Tel Aviv. I'd love to get your feedback in your Eyewitness Report. Please share them using the phone number now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media as well to do that at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422. GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good night.